Okay. All right. First of all, for those of you who do not know, my name's Elizabeth. I am one of the team leaders with Ground Search and Rescue, and I'm also a teacher. So if I start sounding like a teacher in my presentation, that's why. But anyway, so what I get to talk to y'all about tonight is something that I think is really fun. I don't know if y'all think it is, but gear. Does anybody here like gear? Yeah, right? Gear. Okay. So how many of you feel like you have a good understanding of outdoor gear and what you need to stay safe in the outdoors? Okay, cool. So like half and half. That's good. That's a good place to be. So the cool thing about this particular presentation is that it applies not just to SAR, but if you also love outdoor activities like backpacking, mountaineering, hiking, all of that kind of stuff, it applies to that too. I use it all the time. Okay, so here is our course agenda. We are going to talk about pack types, what kind of packs work best. We're going to talk about what we'd like you. Is there like a pointer? Aha! there's a packing list that we're going to talk about what we'd like you to bring if we're doing a mission that's only projected to be 24 hours or less. And then what if it's overnight? What do we want you to bring? We're going to talk about additional items. We're going to talk about what not to pack. Do not bring these things. We're going to talk about where and how to pack, and then packing considerations, layering, which is clothing, sleeping bags, and sleeping pads. So with that being said, backpacking, how many of you have ever backpacked? Okay, how many of you know what an internal frame backpack is versus an external frame? Okay, so in case you don't, an internal frame backpack is one where you can't see the frame. An external frame, you have a big old pipe that is outside of it that is very clear. There's an external frame to it, right? And so we generally recommend an internal frame backpack for SAR use that sit close to your back. The reason for that is sometimes we are, yes, can you grab mine too? It's in that room. Thank you. So this pack here is an internal frame. I don't have an external frame to show you, but because they catch on everything. So whether or not they might sit really well on a backpacking trip, we don't hang out on trails all the time. We're off trail quite often on our missions. And so we need something that's not going to get caught up on every overhanging tree or bush or whatever. So internal frame, that is going to be on the test, FYI. You want an internal frame backpack. Okay.
If you want to see an external frame, I can bring one.
It's coming.
Next week. You got one? Okay.
Cool. Oh, and also there's an example here, which is that's an external frame backpack right here. Pros, cooler to carry. That depends on your pack, but okay. But it's easy to pack. Heavy loads won't sag. I have a friend that has one of these, that she really likes it, but not always. And it definitely did not always work well on SAR missions. And they can be cheaper. The cons are, which is a big one for us, minimal agility. So climbing over stuff and under stuff and everything, they catch on stuff. Weight is another thing, because these can be pretty heavy. They can interfere with litter carrying, because you're like you're like on the side of the litter or in front of it or behind it. And so if your pack is catching on the litter, that's not good. Okay, any questions so far? I know I'm talking a little fast. I'm on a time limit. Okay, this is an internal frame. Both of these packs here that you see are internal frame backpacks. They're flexible. They have pretty good balance. They have stability, maneuverability, and adjustability. The cons are that you can be really bad at organizing them, which is certainly true. Yes, Evie.
Are you allowed to have your binder during the test?
I don't know the answer to that. Devin?
Sure.
Okay. So they tend to generate more heat for the user, but a lot of them also have like a mesh. Like this is my pack, and you'll see that there is a mesh on it, which helps with the cooling. And I'm sure his has one as well. And so, but they still are hotter than external frames often. Okay, and they cost a lot. That was like $300. Yeah, and Gregory is a fantastic brand, especially if you happen to have hip bones and clavicles that stick out like I do. Okay, This is super important. If you don't remember anything else that I tell you today, please remember this. Well, actually, you have a lot that you'll need to remember. But the 10 essentials is really important. Whether you're hiking, backpacking, going on a SAR mission, this should always be in your pack. So, the 10 essentials are, this will most certainly be on the test, repeatedly, just FYI. We have a map. Okay, this does not mean that you need a paper map unless you're Todd. It means that you can use your phone, right? I use All Trails, I use Gaia, other people use other apps, right? You can have a map on your phone. You should have a backup if your primary navigation is your phone, because what if it gets broken? And then you're out in the middle of nowhere with no map. Or you lose it, like I did. A compass is another important thing. You're going to use that a ton in your training with us. Extra clothes, because you never know. We're in Washington. You never know when the weather is going to be one way. It's going to be beautiful and nice, and then it's awful the next second, you know. Always have extra food in case something happens, right? Something that you can sustain you. And, of course, water, please. Water is very essential. First aid kit. For search and rescue first aid kits, you only have to carry enough for your own self, because we have butt packs, is what we call them, which are like bigger first aid packs that we take on missions that have all the essentials. So you just really, this is a butt pack, right? And we have even specialized ones for EMTs. So a bunch of us are EMTs, and so we have an even bigger one that we carry, right? And so all you need in your first aid kit for SAR missions is like what you need for you specifically, like Band-Aids and blister care and that kind of thing. Okay, this is super essential. So essential. Headlamps. Bring a freaking headlamp. Bring 2 headlamps. Bring extra batteries. We often get called out on missions after dark, or our mission will go into the dark, and we can't search if we don't have a headlamp at all. Most of us also have good flashlights, because flashlights are helpful whether it's day or night when we're doing evidence searches in particular, usually fairly bright ones. Okay, matches or a fire starter of some kind, super important because warmth. Pocket knife or fixed blade. I have a fixed blade personally. Mirror and whistle. This is for signaling. I have a whistle. I must admit I don't have a mirror in my pack, but it is a good idea. Oh yeah, that's true. I do have a mirror in my pack. And then sun protection is important. All right.
And number 11, toilet paper.
Yes, the 11th essential is toilet paper.
Todd will sell it to you for $27.50 a square.
And that's also on the test. The 11th essential is also on the test, just FYI, in case you didn't guess that from Todd throwing that in there. Okay, this is what we require for a 24-hour, did you have a thing to add?
Go through the handout instead of that.
Oh.
If you're going to go through the checklist.
Sure. Where did I put my handout? 1 second. Hold that thought.
It's the last
it's right here.
page of this
Thank you.
stuff in your binder. Yeah.
It looks like this. So, we have a backpack. We have clothing bag. Oh, it's very important. We get soaked very, very regularly. We go out in wet. Last year at Bravo, I think it was Bravo, maybe it was Charlie. It was horrible. There was so much rain that all of us were like drowned rats at the end. So you need waterproof stuff. So a lot of us take gallon-sized gallon-sized Ziplocs, and we take our stuff and put them in there and then put those in our pack. And some people even have a garbage bag that's inside their pack that makes it more insulated, and you should most certainly have a pack cover, right? And so as much waterproofing, because if you have extra things like, which you should, gloves, socks, whatever, clothing, and then you're soaking wet and you need to warm up and you go in your pack and it's wet, you're in trouble. That's not a good thing. And that does come up on especially in trainings. We have had that happen many times, and we all have to break into our stores and help the recruits. So bring your own, make sure they're in waterproof bags. If you don't have waterproof bags, there is waterproof bags you can get that are you can get this at like Walmart for 11 bucks. This is a waterproof bag, right? But if you don't have that, you can get use Ziplocs. Todd uses Ziplocs. And it also has a medical application that you'll learn about in the far future. Anyway, so we have clothing, bags, which, you know, this or a Ziploc. We have, make sure you have hiking boots. right? Or sometimes in the summer, hiking shoes will work, but a lot of times we're off trail and we might be walking through places that might have bogs. So higher hiking boots are definitely probably preferable, I would say. I would definitely wear them on SAR missions if I were you. We need base layers. Who here knows what base layers are? Okay, so in case you don't know what base layers are, they're like long johns. They're a moisture wicking layer, which means that they take the moisture off your body, and they are like the basic level of warmth, right? A lot of times you wear it to bed if you're backpacking. But base layers are really important. You should not use cotton. We will say this over and over and over again. Cotton kills. What happens with cotton? If it gets wet, it hangs. It doesn't dry fast. It is just not useful for what we do. There are times it's useful, like if you live in Florida. but here, where it rains all the time and stuff like that, no cotton. And that will also be on the test. Do not bring cotton on missions. Every part of your clothing should not be cotton.
Even your undergarments.
Yes. Because really wet undergarments are not pleasant, let me tell you. All right, so we want pants, obviously, preferably not, well, actually not preferably, most certainly not jeans, and most certainly not cotton, so something that is synthetic. We want, one of the best fabrics, by the way, is wool, right, for both wicking layers, moisture wicking layers, and for warmth layers, right? And so wool shirts, wool socks, very helpful, okay? So we have wool shirts, we have a fleece, right? That's an insulating layer. We have wool socks. We have a raincoat, very important. We have really nice raincoats that after you're with us for a while, you can get a discount, a very massive discount on, which is very nice, and they work very well. But you will need a raincoat and a good one. I do not mean frog togs. Frog togs do not work for SAR. Let me tell you. One of my classmates, when I came through, and I was where you guys are, had them, and the first overnight training we went to, they were shredded within like 20 minutes of us arriving. So do not use frog togs. Real rain clothing. So we have raincoat, we have rain pants. The reason for that is because we're walking around in the bush a lot. You can get your clothing wet. If you don't have rain pants and your clothes get wet, it can drip into your shoes. Now you have wet feet, which is going to make you cold. There's just a lot of reasons you want to have raincoat, rain pants, just thoroughly rain-proofed, because we're in Washington. Okay, another thing is a stocking cap, or something warm or synthetic, like that can take care of, like if you do not, because I don't love a stocking cap, but this works. The reason for this is it's synthetic, and I can convert it to cover my ears, right? And a stocking cap is nice because you can pull it down over your ears and your ears get cold. You can use one of these as well. So we have that. We have wool and fleece gloves. When you go to your trainings, you should have like 5 pair of gloves. I kid you not. Literally one time Kelly took the gloves out at one of our trainings and she wrung out her gloves that she was wearing on her hands, and it was a lot of water that came out of them. So much water and that's even when it's not raining. If we're in the bush, we are off trail quite a lot, and so you're touching stuff as you're walking by or pushing it aside, and it soaks your gloves very quickly, and your hands get very, very cold, and you need dexterity. Yes, Kelly?
You're taking your hands in and out of them a lot too, and your
That's
hands
true.
are wet, and you're putting them back in so they're wet. So you need
Lots of gloves. Like I literally bring 5 pair. And you can just go and get like really basic pairs at Costco. Heck, you can even go to I think I went to Rite Aid one time and I got a bunch of these little tiny, oh, where are they? Here they are. So for gloves, you have, these are ones that you can get at Rite Aid, right? Having a whole bunch of these can be very helpful. I personally really like having mittens as well, because then I can have the dexterity to take this off, and because they're fingerless, right? And I can use them, and then I can put this back on for warmth. But, that's my preference. I know a lot of people don't love that. Okay, so you want lots and lots of gloves. So many gloves. You want waterproof pad and pencil. Also super, super important. You can get those at Walmart. this is a lot of times when we're on missions or at trainings, we have information that we need you to have. In order to pass the training, you need certain information down that you have written down. And if you use normal paper and it's raining, it runs. And it also just falls apart. So, waterproof pad and also a pencil. Okay, compass. You should have a watch, right? Preferably, it's very important that you have one that has seconds on it, because eventually you're going to have to start taking vitals if you go into field academy, and it's much harder to take vitals if you don't have seconds on your watch. All right, so watch. SAR ID. Once you guys get your IDs, have they got their IDs yet? Nope. When you guys get your IDs, you always take them on missions 100% of the time. We don't generally let you go in the field if you have not brought your SAR ID. So SAR ID is required. Headlamp, backup light. Like I mentioned before, you have a headlamp, you have batteries in case your headlamp runs out of batteries, and you might even want a backup. I always have at least 2, and usually a flashlight too. I'm sure pretty much everybody in SAR usually has like 4 headlamps in their pack at any given time. A knife, fixed blade. Small fixed blade is helpful because there's multiple different uses for that. You can obviously use it to baton wood, which is easier if it's a fixed blade rather than a folding knife. And so fixed blade knife, personal first aid kit like we talked about, 1 whistle. Whenever you go into the field, this is also on the test, you need at least 2 liters of water all the time. Always 2 liters of water, right? You should also have some manner of water purification. It's always good to have a backup. So like this is my water purification right here. This is called a Be-Free. It's wondrous. I love it. It's like $40. Right? But what happens if this pops? Then I'm screwed, right? So I need backup. So I usually have like the water filtration pills as well. So just in case this pops, which we had one of our team members, actually that one's brother, I believe, that went out and he had a filter and he had a backup and something else, and like all of them went. They like popped one right after another, and he ended up not having any water filtration. And he was like, how did I have this kind of luck? And he had like 3 different kinds of water filtration, and somehow every single one of them failed. But it's good to have backup for water filtration. Any questions there? Okay. Oh, compass. Sorry, yes. You need a compass that has the ability to have a dilation on it, which is Silva Ranger 2.0, I believe is what it's called. Declination, I said the wrong thing. I'm sorry. I'm also tired. Declination is important because you'll be like 16 degrees off if you can't set your declination, which is problematic because we have a lot of compass work that we do. So, Silver Ranger.
Headlamp having a red light on there.
Oh yeah, that's true because when we're working around the litter, it's really, really not pleasant to shine a really bright light into somebody's face. It makes it really hard to do our job. And so you need to be able to switch it to a different light that still provides you light, but is not painful to the eyes. So red lights, blue lights. I think Nathan has one that has a blue light on it or a green light, which can also work. Just a different color besides just bright white light. Okay. We also, the different types of water filtration, because this will come up on the test, that you can go through is there's chemical water filtration, there's media filtration, which is like this, the thing that I showed you. There is ultraviolet, and I feel like I'm missing one. Chemical ultraviolet. Oh, and boiling, of course, and boiling. Chemical ultraviolet, media filtration, and boiling, the 4 types. Okay, so we also want no-cook meals. When we're in the field, a lot of times we don't have time to sit down for a big, long time and make meals. When we're at trainings, we will always give you time at least a couple times a day to make meals, but it's always good to have something to eat on the go because we use a lot of energy when we're in the field, and you don't want to start crashing because you're just tired and don't have enough food, right?
Jerky, cheese sticks, granola bars, Clif bars.
Totally. And if you have questions about what kind of snacks would be best, literally ask anybody to sit around the outside of the room. We all have our favorite snacks and our little things that we've learned and stuff like that we'd be happy to share. Yeah?
I see that MREs are listed as no-cook meals. Does Mountain House, like the freeze-dried stuff, fall under MRE as well, or are you looking for something?
No, they're a cooked meal.
They're a cook meal.
Boil
Yeah, but like when we do overnight trainings, we do give time to do those, but it's always good to have different options besides those. So like a ready-to-go sandwich or something like that that's, vacuum sealed, that kind of thing.
MREs that are actually ready to eat, some of you do still want to heat them up.
That's why I asked you guys. I need someone to get it.
If you can eat it on the go, you're good. That's what matters.
A lot of people just eat top ramen, put the stuff on it and eat the noodles raw.
I would still carry some MRE anyway, just for at night, get down or something,
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. And then, all right, does that answer the question? Cool. Another thing that Todd threw in earlier that's the 11th essential is toilet paper, right? You need toilet paper. It's also good to have a trowel or something. Us ladies, these things are lovely. These are Kula cloths. They're very nice. They make things less difficult. So toilet paper in a waterproof bag, important. You will have to poop and pee in the woods. So you would need to be prepared for that. That you won't get around that likely. All right, fire starter. It's important to have something to not only start a fire, so a lot of us like have cotton balls that are dipped in Vaseline, or all of us have our own tricks. Mine's cotton balls dipped in Vaseline. Other people have stuff they buy at the store. Once again, ask anybody over here. They'll tell you what they use for fire starter. And then you need something that's a waterproof way to start it, right? So you don't want matches that as soon as you light it, if you're in a windstorm or a rainstorm, they're just gonna go out. That's not gonna help much, right? So waterproof, windproof matches in a waterproof container. You also want a shelter of some kind. So bivvies work, but you might, once again, if you have questions about this gear, talk to us. Each of these things, there's aspects that come up that we could easily talk to you guys about, like bivvies, picking a bivvy. There's choices around that if you pick bivvies that are really cheap, for example, you'll wake up in the morning and your whole bag is like soaking wet because it holds in the condensation that your body puts out, and so it soaks your bag through. Even though it's protecting you from the rain outside, it's still soaked in the morning and you're still cold. So a good bivvy is important of some kind, or a tarp. A lot of us bring tarps. Safety glasses and hearing protection. We should have those because we work around helicopters sometimes. Paracord, similar rope, 50 feet of it. Definitely also very useful in putting up shelters especially. Chem lights, glow sticks, grid ribbon, which is ribbon. You didn't bring my other thing, that's okay. It's basically flagging tape. We use it to mark our trails. So climbing helmet, absolutely required, right? Please bring a climbing helmet. We use that on the litter in particular. Any questions so far? I know there's a lot of information. Evie.
What's a litter?
Oh, good question. A litter is the thing that we put subjects on when they are injured and we need to carry them out, and then we either put it on a wheel and we wheel them out on that. It's like a stretcher that we can attach to a wheel, or sometimes we just carry it, but most of the time we put it on a wheel and wheel it out. It's a good question. That's ribbon. There we go. Very essential. Yes?
What color ribbon should you have?
Bright orange is good. We learned that the last time we were on a search, and I had green ribbon, and nobody could see my ribbon in the woods. Weird, right? That it was green and...
Neon orange and neon pink.
Yeah, bright. And yeah. All right, so we don't need these things, but they are useful. So I'm going to go through those really fast. Bandana or handkerchief is helpful. We have space blankets. Almost all of us have those in our packs because they're useful for emergencies. Leather gloves. These are super useful for when we are using the litter, right? Your hands, it's not fun a lot of times after a while, holding on to those cold, hard metal that's wet and cold and like it's going up and down. Leather gloves, very useful, especially on the litter. Zip ties, highly recommend. I've had to repair gear with that before. Duct tape, because duct tape fixes everything, right? And we have a small waterproof flashlight, sunglasses, Ziploc bags, garbage bags, right? Insect repellent, gaiters. Gaiters are really, you should get gaiters. These are gaiters, in case you don't know what they are. They basically make your boots taller. So they go down here, make your boots taller. Very helpful for search and rescue because we go through bush a lot. So highly recommend gaiters. Battery pack for cell phones. That's practically becoming essential these days because all of our maps and everything are on our phones. And so if your battery runs out, you're in trouble, right? So a backup battery pack is really helpful. Okay, that is if you're just going for a day, right? Now, well, I will say we don't all carry that all of the time, everything that I just said. That is a lot of stuff. But ideally, you have that on a 24-hour pack. And so then if we do overnight, so now we're going into 48 hours, you basically just add a shelter of some kind, a sleeping bag, a sleeping pad, and a stove, right? So a stove is very important because then we're making the meals, we're heating up liquid, that kind of thing. Shelter is obviously important, yes. I will show you. Ideal is a jet boil. Do you know what a jet boil is? It looks like this. These are very nice. So they're also kind of expensive, but you can go to Goodwill. A lot of this material, you can go to Goodwill and find like things that aren't maybe jet boils, but are similar. Like some people use pocket rockets. Some people, yeah, pocket rockets. They're way lighter than jet boils. Yes. What do you have, jet boil? Or, so he has a pocket rocket. So when we're done with this class, by the way, we're going to let you guys come up and trash our gear and look through it and see all the stuff that we use, and we're going to explain why we picked the things. If you are interested, that's not required, but we'll have all our gear up here. Okay, so it says, and this will come up on the test, I don't necessarily always love this because I've had bad experiences with it, but synthetic bags generally are better than down bags in rainy weather. I personally hate synthetic bags because I literally have been in like 30-degree weather in a bag that was supposed to be rated for 15 degrees as a synthetic, and I was shaking cold. And so, also, well,
my pack right now is a synthetic bag.
So I have a down bag that is dry tech, but that's more expensive, as Ali has mentioned earlier. It's quite expensive, but it is really nice to have that. Yeah.
If you choose to use a down bag, make sure that you always go to bed dry.
Yep.
Completely dry. You don't put your subject in it, wet and muddy, because you won't have a bag. You won't be able to use that bag. Because once it gets wet, you can't dry it.
Yeah.
You have to protect your down bag. If you're going to use a down bag, that's why we don't recommend them until you've been in this for a while.
Yeah.
And then once you're in it, you know how to keep yourself dry and warm and all that good stuff, then maybe go up to the down bag. But synthetic is better to start.
Mm-hmm. And the test will ask, and it'll say which one is better in weather, and it's synthetic, right? So because that is the foolproof way of the two is synthetic. Okay, so next one is sleeping pads. Closed cell is important. So what is closed cell? This is closed cell, okay? It's like a blow up is open cell, right? And a blow up, a lot of people like blow ups. I will tell you, when I was in Search and Rescue and Academy, I used my blow up to put under a subject, because we do put these under subjects sometimes to get them off the ground, and it popped. So highly recommend that, personally, and also it keeps you warmer. A lot of people use both because that adds more comfort and more warmth, but yeah, so there's those. And then if we're going overnight, that's when you start bringing the mountain houses, right? Okay, so here's all this information that we just talked about. So when you are packing your pack, how do we pack our packs? Well, we want to make sure that there's some room left over because sometimes we need to put extra stuff for the mission into our individual packs. And so it's helpful to not have it packed all the way to the brim. So that's helpful. Typical mission packs range from 35 liters to 65. So that one right there is 70. My day one that I usually take on SAR missions is 38. So it's nice to have a bag with a little extra capacity than what you'd take on like a day hike. Anything that gets wet should be in a Ziploc bag or a dry bag because we don't want to get wet. We don't want our clothing and gloves and everything to get wet. Keep things dry. Keep your tarp and your rain gear handy, and these should be very readily accessible, your headlamp and your snacks. Todd would like y'all to know that you should line your pack with a trash bag if you want to keep your gear dry. I know he does that. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, grams turn into ounces and ounces turn into pounds. There's nobody better at this than Kelly. Kelly literally cuts those tags out of her shirts when she goes backpacking because she wants to avoid all the grams and all the ounces and turn them back into not being pounds. Kelly's, yes, and she had everything. You should have seen when we went backpacking, like at the end of summer, a bunch of us went backpacking, we do every year. And she had, and she had everything. She even had deodorant, it was amazing. She just shaved off some deodorant off of a thing. She had a frying pan, and it was still lighter than all of ours. It was crazy. So if you want to know how to pack ultra, 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 ultra light, she's the guru. Anyway, okay, this is how you pack your pack. So you have light on top. You have heavy close to the back. This is close to the back. This is not on one side. I know this kind of looks like you should pack it on the left side. You could read it that way. That's not accurate. It's showing you having the heavy close to your back because you don't want it hanging and pulling you over backwards, right? You want it to be evenly balanced between right and left because otherwise you'll feel it. I promise you. So medium weight is here. Sleeping bag is down here. A lot of bigger packs have a different like a zip open that is literally specifically to get at your sleeping bag. So you can always keep it in the bottom, right? So those are overnight packs. A lot of times have that. Any questions about this? It will come up on your test. Where do you put heavy stuff? Close to the back. And then, like, you don't want it way out here. Close to the back. Okay? All right. Same thing. Oh, I guess it's slightly different for a external frame, but we don't want you to use external frame, so. All right. Do your best to lose the heavy stuff in your pack. Pack lightweight stuff. We can all give you hints on that. Don't use canned food. Use freeze-dried food. Don't take cans of food. Substitute headlights for mag light. Oh, yeah, I see what it's saying. So don't take big, heavy flashlights. Take light headlamps. Yes, it is helpful to have a flashlight as well if it's a small one. Substitute tarps for big tents. But be aware that this is also on the test. Tarps don't provide insect protection because you can't zip up inside of a tarp. And I know Todd literally hates insects, and he would run away from a trail that had a bunch of insects. He will refuse to go, not on a SAR mission, but any pleasure hike. If there's insects, he will run away and be like, no, I'm not doing it, I refuse. So tarp would not be his friend. All right, break up heavy, bulky items between people. So like if there's multiple people in your group, so sometimes on the missions or on the trainings, you can choose a person to partner up with. So you can break up those heavy items between the two of you. But usually we make you bring your own, so I'm not sure why that's there.
on missions, it's
oh, fair. Yes, but on trainings, you have to bring your own. All right, leave the makeup at home. Yes, please. If you wear makeup, don't bring it. There's no reason to bring it. You're not going to have time to put it on. It's going to run. Don't overpack. Don't underpack. Do it just right. Goldilocks zone is important. Okay. Always carry your 10 essentials. Whether you're going hiking on a day hike, whether you're going backpacking, whether you're going on a SAR mission, always carry your 10 essentials. Prioritize your needs based on how long you can live without. So this is also on the test. So if you were out hiking and you got lost, right, what do you want to make sure happens? Well, the first thing you need is you need shelter and water, right? But food, less of a consideration. You can go 3 weeks without any food, right? So you need water first, because you can only survive 3 days without water. And then shelter would be good. Signaling for help is important eventually. But these three things are the essentials of life, right? Shelter, food, and water. Okay? Everybody understand? Good? Okay. Fires are important, both for improving survivability and for maintaining a positive attitude. If one is lost in a bad situation in the woods, what we call PMA, which is positive mental attitude, is literally science has showed over and over again that it will make the difference between a person making it a long time, being able to get through hard circumstances, being able to go on with a really bad injury. PMA is important, and fires help with that. So they give you a better, cheerier outlook on life. But of course, when you have a fire, think about other things. And we're going to talk more about this when we talk about safety and stuff like that. But when you have a fire, You need to make sure that there's not anything flammable that you're not trying to set on fire nearby, and that winds are not going to blow it into the forest and start a forest fire that we all have to run away from and burn down our beautiful woods. That would suck. This will also be on the test. In order for a fire to happen, 3 ingredients are needed. A heat source, which would be matches or such things like that. Fuel, right? Wood and oxygen. You need these things. In any emergency situations, you should stop what you are doing. Stop is the mnemonic. Remember this, because it will be on the test. Stop stands for stop, think, observe, potato. Just kidding, it's plan. I don't know who did that. No, stop, think, observe, plan. So you don't want to just run around panicked if you're lost or in a bad situation and just like not think about what's going on. You stop, you look around, you think about what's going on, you look at your surroundings, and then you make a plan before you just run off and do something. Like, we have literally had people that it would have been much easier if they would have just stopped where they were rather than trying to come to help and getting more lost because they just wandered off in a direction and they thought they were going towards help and they were not going towards help, right? So stop, okay? Always be prepared for the situation, the conditions you expect, and adapt the ability to improvise for those you don't. You should always, 100% of the time, we'll go over this again in future presentations, but you always want to know what you're walking into. So before every mission, I know Todd does this, I'm sure Devin does this, I'm sure every single person here that's gone on some missions does this. We check the weather. We check whether we need to expect rain, whether wind is going to be a problem, right? Because we have forests, trees that can fall on us. And then we pack accordingly, but we don't just, if it says there's no rain in the forecast, we don't go, oh, well, rain gear, oh, well. You know, it's fine. The weather said it's not going to rain. You still want to pack for that possibility, but just be aware of what you're walking into as best as you can. Okay. It is good to have on-the-go foods like we talked about. We want dehydrated meals if we're spending the night. But otherwise, trail mix, snack bars, energy gels, all great options. Like this thing right here is actually a bunch of food. It is a bunch of bars and stuff like that that I always have ready that I can just throw in my pack. And I have a bunch of food that I can eat. Maybe not the most delicious food ever, but it'll sustain me. And so I'm ready to go for that. So this will also be on the test, by the way. What are good options for 24-hour pack? We have trail mix, snack packs, energy gels, anything that's quick and on the go and does not need to be refrigerated. If you have time, it's also helpful to have something that you can eat, like that is a little bit more substantial. Like I know Todd always brings his, what is it, PB&H? Or peanut butter and honey. And one time I gave it away to a subject and he was really mad at me. He was really mad at me. He hasn't let me forget that yet. But yeah, packing a sandwich or a wrap can be very helpful.
Or mayonnaise with a side of sandwich.
Yes. Also, like wraps. Like another thing that he eats is if you take a tortilla and you put those little packets that you can get at like a fast food restaurant that are like mayo and mustard. You put that in there and you put some meat and some cheese in there. You have a very good meal. I learned that from him too. Okay, electrolytes are super recommended. Noon, liquid IV. Anybody else use other things between those two? No, just those two? Okay, so Noon and liquid IV, both really helpful. We need these. Like when I'm out doing a really hard hike or mountaineering especially, like if it's high exertion, that's why I say that, is this perks you right back up. And on missions, what we do, it might not be mountaineering, but it is high exertion. And so it is really helpful to have electrolytes, right? And maintaining hydration before, during, and after a mission is critical. I also believe on the test there's a question that says, how do you maintain hydration? What's one thing you can do? And the answer is very odd. It's like you can bring a flavor. Is that not correct?
Some people put those squeeze bottles of flavoring into their bottles.
If you just can't stand water.
Stay hydrated.
Yes. So that's the answer on the test, because the test is tricky, and it's one of the other things on it is salt tablets, which is electrolytes. And so that's why I bring it up right now, is it would be very easy to look at that question and go, oh, well, it's electrolytes. But no, if it's the way to stay hydrated, it's...
We can improve it.
I don't know, but that's what it is. So maintaining hydration, super important. Okay, moving on. Layering, very important. So we have Multiple layers that we need. It's the practice of dressing a lot of different lightweight layers so that you can like get warmer or cool down very quickly and very easily. Because if your only layer is a big old down coat and you get over hot and you take that off, now you're freezing, that's a problem, right? So having multiple layers is important. Layered systems are very versatile, and they give you a much better chance of staying dry. Okay, never use cotton, ever, ever, ever. Wool is a great option for any layer under your shell. Your shell, when you see that, is a rain jacket. Okay, we're going fast. This is an hour layer, guys. Okay, these are the layers. You do need to know this. Base layer is, really quick. I brought the stuff so you guys could see. We have base layers, which is like this, right? Merino wool is very good. This is like long johns, right? That's a base layer. We have fleece or something similar to that. That's a mid layer. We have insulation, which is a puffy usually, or a down jacket, right? Down jackets can go down very little, which is nice. And then a shell, right? That's going to be on the test. Base layers, mid layers, insulation layers, shell layer. You need to know that, okay? So very helpful. Okay, base layers. These are made out of merino wool, the ones that I have. They are very useful because they wick moisture. It is really helpful if our inner layer, which is always worn right up against our skin, can wick the sweat away from our skin and provide us with an extra layer of insulation. And we usually use these more when it's cold. Like right now, if we went on mission, I would not be putting these on. That would be, I would sweat. That would be bad. We also, it's also really helpful if you have something right up against your skin, like for us ladies, sports bras should be synthetic, not cotton, once again, right? Cool Max t-shirts are awesome, polyester is awesome, silk, merino wool, all of that stuff, not cotton. Okay, this is how it works. All right, we're not gonna go over that too much. Mid-layer, that would be this one. It can be a fleece, it can be, this is synthetics. A lot of people have fleeces. It's just something that is a little warmer than your base layer, basically. The point of it is to give you a little bit more insulation and protection from the cold. So there's examples. Okay, mid-layer. Insulation layer. This can be a puffier fleece. It can be a permaloft. It can be a down jacket. It can be a soft shell, anything like that. A wool sweatshirt, wool is always good. Okay, this is an insulation layer. Okay, outer shell is rain pants and a raincoat, anything that is rain and wind resistant or proof, preferably. Yep, okay, we already talked about this. Down is really warm. It can be very compressed, like this is a 0-degree bag right here, and this is not only a 0-degree, but also a sleeping bag liner. Pretty little, right? His synthetic, it's humongous, right? It does not compress down as little.
Yeah, it's put into the top.
It is way warmer, way, 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 way warmer. The problem is if it gets wet, it's worthless unless you have a dry tech like I do. It is more expensive, most certainly. Like I got that for Christmas. It was like $500. My family got it for me. I was very thankful. I would not have been able to afford it. Okay, synthetic pros. It still maintains insulation better when wet. It's less expensive and it's non-allergenic. If you're allergic to down, don't get a down bag. However, the problem is it's super bulky, as he was just mentioning. It's really heavy. They kind of degrade over time, and they're stiffer than down, and they don't drape over all of your body quite as nicely. I very much prefer down, but synthetics are good for beginners, yes. Okay, choose your rating. You should choose a rating that's at least 10 degrees below what you think you'll be at. Like I have my 0-degree bag, and I will always have a 0-degree bag, even in summer.
Why a 0-degree bag even in summer?
Because I always want to be warm.
And you can always unzip it.
Exactly, and it literally turns into...
You don't buy three sleeping bags. Buy like a 0-degree bag and you can unzip it.
Yep.
4 for no reason?
Yep, and if you have a sleeping bag liner, it's really nice too because it can also be another way to kind of be less warm or warmer. It can go in either direction, which is nice. We already talked about this. you should have a closed cell foam pad, okay? So yes, it's helpful to have inflatable, but you need to have at least one of these, okay? Do have one of these, please. You can also have an inflatable if you want for more comfort. What happened? I did it? Woo! 1 minute over, yeah.